All right, welcome to Off the Curb. We're going to go quick. We're going to go fast. We're going to go speedy here. This is no Ben Augusta, no producer here. We're just going to go fast and tight and address this as quickly as possible because we got a number of things we're working on here. We'll get to that later. Look, the NCAA dalliance with Harbaugh, and now it is Michigan without Harbaugh, has been an ongoing saga for a long time. And it's interesting what you see. Chris Ballas from the Wolverine has consistently reported things first, but he ends up being like 9% correct. So when he says something is in fact coming. So I think you can bank on that. Whether or not you buy the validity of it, look at the track record. It's up to you how you want to handle it. Chris Ballas has had a number of things wrong along the way, but there is something he reported today that I think we all knew was coming. I think it's a matter of fact, and it's just a question of the timing. So Chris Ballas from the Wolverine reports that as soon as Tuesday, which would be tomorrow if you're watching this live, the NCAA is expected to release their notice of allegations to Michigan, and they're going to issue this document, which is a formality, and it really starts the clock on this whole process against Michigan. Now, there's a key point in Chris's reporting, Mr. Ballas's reporting here, that I think is going to be interesting to track going forward. He notes, and I think it's a fair guess, even if you were just speculating, the NCAA plans to eye a 1 to 2 year postseason ban as part of this. Now, there's a number of reasons why that's funny. First of all, what happened to nothing's going to happen, bro? I mean, it's a consistent moving of the goalposts that we've seen where this was all much ado about nothing, or it was going to be a slap on the wrist, etc. Now, with their own, let's face it, very pro-Michigan publication reporting that this is going to be something on the docket for Michigan to face, a postseason ban, which is a severe penalty by any definition. Now that that's actually in front of these people, what are they saying? Yeah, it was worth it. 15-0, doesn't matter as long as they don't vacate the wins, right? Look, you can have that rationalization, but these are the same people that said this was much ado about nothing and nothing would happen. Now, that is just going to be the typical moving of the goalposts that you see, even if it lands ultimately on wins being vacated, a championship being vacated. These people are still going to rationalize it and say they were out to get Harbaugh. So at no point are you ever going to arrive at the point where Michigan fans and their media say, shit, you know what? That title was bullshit. It's never going to happen. So anybody that's waiting for that sort of self-aware confessional from that fan base or the media that cover them, just don't hold your breath because it's not going to happen. It is a fruitless exercise. They've already moved the goalposts every step of the way. And I'm looking forward to, it could be any day or it could be a month from now, the Connor Stallions on the sideline of the Central Michigan State game story coming out, because that is a perfect example of this phenomenon where these people, and we have the receipts, so I'll document this in due time. Just wait. Anyone can look for themselves as well in your free time. Everybody, almost across the board, a couple exceptions, 95% of the Michigan fan base and even their media that chimed in at the time said that you're crazy if you even think that's Connor Stallions on the sideline. Like, that's clearly Central Michigan assistant A, Central Michigan assistant B. That doesn't even look like Connor Stallions, right? Well, now even most of them agree begrudgingly that it was him, but it's a CMU issue. It's not really a Michigan issue, or it's the whole lone wolf nonsense. That exact track is what you're going to see and have seen to some degree already with the bigger story. It's not Stallions. Not only is it not Stallions, you're crazy if you think it's Connor Stallions on the sideline. Oh, well, then it is Stallions, but it's just not that big of a deal. That's a central issue, right? You're going to see that here. Here's the key point. Let's take Chris Ballas at face value. Let's say he's correct, and I don't think it's an insane assumption or guess or speculation that the NCAA would be desirous of levying a postseason ban against Michigan for level 1, level 2, and level 3 violations. Look at the track record of the NCAA when they've issued that punishment, a postseason ban. What is the common element when they do that? Look, this was maybe about an hour of research going through. I'm not saying it was completely exhaustive. I can't find another example of a postseason ban being levied and wins not being vacated. I can't find it. Now, it might be out there. If it is, it's the exception. I mean, I'll run down the list. I wrote down just the ones I was finding. It was like 7 for 7. I'm going to give you the year that the punishment was levied. USC in 2010, lack of institutional control, improper benefits. 2-year postseason ban, right? Postseason ban. National championship vacated. All wins from 04 vacated. 2011, Ohio State, Tattoo Gate. 1-year postseason ban. 12 wins, all of them vacated, including their share of the Big Ten title that season. Wiped out. North Carolina, my other alma mater. Academic fraud, 2012. 1-year postseason ban. All 16 wins vacated from the 08 and 09 seasons, the seasons in question. Missouri basketball, 2016. Inadequate monitoring of assistants. Inadequate monitoring of assistants. 1-year postseason ban. Technically self-imposed, but if you read about that, it was with cooperation of the NCAA. They basically mutually agreed. 1-year postseason ban. All 23 wins vacated from the 2013-2014 season. You see a pattern. You see any pattern here? Ole Miss, 2017, 2-year postseason ban. 1 self-imposed. The NCAA tacked on another one. 2 years total. 33 wins vacated across 6 seasons. LSU, 2023, Les Miles era, but penalty issued just a year ago. Recruiting violations, 1-year postseason ban. 37 wins vacated from 2012 to 2015. You're seeing the pattern. When the NCAA issues a postseason ban, wins go out the window with it. Michigan was on the other side of this in basketball in 2013. Louisville had wins vacated, postseason ban, hand in hand. National championship wiped out. USC national championship wiped out. I mean, what more do you need to see? When this has happened, the wins go too. Now, the NCAA is crazy. The NCAA is inconsistent, slow, hypocritical, and sometimes, frankly, things don't make sense. So that's fair if you're going to say, well, just because that happens, it doesn't mean this is going to happen. But if you're looking at this objectively, why and how can I justify a postseason ban of any kind, 1 year, 2 year, whatever it might be, if we're to believe the reporting, and I think that's a fair guess, how can we pursue that and not touch the wins when we've done that in every other case? And you can say, oh, the different, yeah, the Louisville scandal was much worse. Okay. Strippers, bigger competitive advantage, bringing a stripper to a recruit's visit than cheating. You can have that discussion. Couldn't I argue Tattoo-gate was clearly, in Ohio State's case, less than whatever Michigan did here? I don't know if there's anything as ridiculous as a guy in full costume conspiring with former members of the Michigan staff to infiltrate the sideline, and it's on tape. This will all come out. It's on tape. They're passing clothes through gates. It's all on tape. The NCAA had those interviews in Mount Pleasant with those people on that Central Michigan staff. They know it. This will all come out. Nothing is more egregious than that. So it'll be interesting if there is a postseason ban on the table. Why not wins being vacated? Why now? Why different now? That's not for me to answer. That's for the NCAA to answer. It makes no sense to me. I don't get how that makes any sense. I mean, if anyone can explain that to me rationally, where I'm just in my free time ripping off examples, finding them left and right every single time this has happened, where where a postseason ban has been in place, wins go with it. That's been the track record. The other thing I want to address, Chris Ballas is reporting, all part of the same article to which we reference. He says Michigan is prepared to fight. Where have I heard that before? This is a guy who, when it was speculated that the Big Ten may be possibly considering suspending Jim Harbaugh, and we made an edit to this effect, he got on his show, Chris Ballas did, and said, oh, this is not your grandpa's Michigan. These guys are fighters. They're going to take this all the way to the Supreme Court. What happened? They folded like a cheap tent. The second they were confronted with the evidence of what transpired here, they all backed down. Harbaugh dropped his lawsuit. Michigan, a completely different piece of paper in the court system, they backed down. Everybody folded. So take that whole, they're going to fight this with a grain of salt. Nobody wants to hear it. We have already heard that once. Nobody cares. Okay. The problem with their attitude in this whole thing, the defiance and the, oh, you can't touch us, and this is going to be a slap on the wrist. When you rub people's noses in it, you don't have a lot of people on your side. Ohio State in 2011 actually had a lot of now Michigan people were acting like they crucified somebody at the 50-yard line. But Michigan aside, Ohio State actually had a lot of people around the country being like, this is stupid. This is overkill. No, like there weren't that many people appalled outside of Ann Arbor or, the metaphorical Ann Arbor, as it were. Not that many people have actually stepped foot on campus on a non-game day, but I digress. The amount of people outside of that bubble that actually gave a shit about Ohio State were pretty small. It's not the case with Michigan. Partly because when you do this to everybody and you thumb your nose and you stick your nose up at everybody, they're going to look to bury you. And it's the same thing when people say, oh, the NCAA is out to get Harbaugh. Probably true. Whose fault is that? when Harbaugh is making a spectacle of himself for 6-7 years and calling out the NCAA, the whole 100 points, Ryan Day thing and that whole scandal that these people love now, the whole origin of that was on a Big Ten coaches call where Harbaugh was calling out Ryan Day for having one too many staffers on the field during a practice in the offseason. That Harbaugh was clutching his pearls and in front of everybody in the conference, all the coaches, he's outing, trying to humiliate Ryan Day, the head coach of Ohio State, in the offseason preceding the 2020 season for having one too many staffers at a practice like in July. Look it up. That's what the origin of the whole, we're going to drop 100 points on them was. So yes, when you are the arbiter of all morals in the NCAA and college athletics at large, don't blame the NCAA or anybody when you start cheating and you start running way outside of bounds and then the lines of what the guidelines are in the NCAA and the bylaws. When you start running afoul, don't be shocked when the NCAA says, you know what, fuck you. That's exactly what happened. I'm willing to grant the NCAA is out to get you. But it's not for no reason. They have a good reason to be out to get you. And if people want to say, oh my God, there's no vacated wins. Totally possible the NCAA botches it. I need a rational explanation for why every other time, if the postseason ban is pursued, I need a rational explanation for why this is the one exception. Why every other time there's been a postseason ban that I can find, vacated wins come with it. They are married. And, so you can't really make a strong argument, I would say, in this. I'm fascinated to hear it. I welcome anybody to bring it to me. We got a lot to work on. The Stallions on the sideline thing is more funny than anything else, the Central Michigan situation. But that story's coming out. I can't wait for that. But anyone saying, oh, Michigan's ready to fight, laugh at those people, because I can show you 100 examples of them saying the same thing in October and November and December, and they've lost every single one of those battles. They have. Michigan had, since left, Michigan had the only coach in the history of American sports to be suspended twice in one season and not lose his job. It's the only time it's ever happened. And if you want to say, oh, it was a witch hunt, the first one was self-imposed. The second one was unopposed. Self-imposed, unopposed. Why is that? What is the benefit to Michigan, the ultimate pearl clutching institution, I would argue, to self-impose anything that wasn't justified, or to lay down and take something that constituted a witch hunt in any fashion? It's stop the gaslighting. You're gaslighting. And you guys have been wrong every step of the way. Every single time they said no big deal, something else happens, and then they say, well, who cares? I mean, it doesn't matter. It's not that big of a deal. And 15-0 and 49-0 and all that bullshit. Checks are coming due. You said nothing would happen. If it's a postseason ban, or if it's anything at all, you were wrong. Sorry. that's. I mean, you can say you don't care. Maybe you don't. What else are you going to do? But you were wrong. This is a lot more serious than any of those people let on, and it's going to continue to grow. And I am not putting my faith in the NCAA, but the last thing I'll say, it is nonsense. This quote that you're seeing from Mr. Baker, the president of the NCAA, that he absolved Michigan and said they won fair and square. Go back and look at the context of that discussion. He was being grilled, I would argue, nicely put, questioned on the NCAA being transparent and forthcoming about what was going on in their investigation with Michigan, contacting the Big Ten. The Big Ten later suspends Harbaugh. He was being put to task on that point. And in defense of himself and the NCAA as a governing body, to whatever extent it still is, of the sport, he was defending the decision on the basis of we had to stop it so subsequent games would not be affected. And in that defense, he was saying, because we intervened early and were transparent right away with the Big Ten, they could alert their conference members about what was going on, and they could make whatever decision they needed to make. And you saw Michigan State, which didn't matter. We all know that they changed the outcome, but it impacted how they communicated, Ohio State communicated in November, et cetera. That was it. He was half defending himself and half taking credit for his intervention, protecting the sanctity of subsequent games. No one could say they didn't win subsequent games fair and square. There's no opinion. That's what the context was. Anybody can read it. In the same press scrum, he's saying that they had myriad and ample and, quote, compelling evidence of a massive scheme that was breaking NCAA rules. So it's like, talk about cherry picking quotes. You can cling to that. You can be like Linus, holding onto the blanket. It's not a real defense, because that's not what he was saying. He was not rubber stamping or clearing the entire run. He was taking credit for protecting subsequent games. But guess what? If you won fair and square the last 5, 6, 7 games, or what, even if it's the last 11 of 12 in the regular season, it doesn't matter. It's all fruit of the poisonous tree. And there wasn't one element of what he said that absolved Michigan at large in this investigation. Why would he? Why would he undermine his own investigation at its earliest stages, which is what it was at that time of that comment in early January? Makes no sense. There's a reason it doesn't make any sense, because that's not what he said. Did he say the words? Yes. The context or lack thereof is appalling. Everything that they have said on the Michigan side has been wrong, right? Pretty much, right? I mean, the evidence is there. So they can say they're going to bring a fight. I want to see what happens here. We'll see. We know the NCAA is doing something. And if it's a postseason ban without wins vacated, there's going to be some questions. I don't know. You guys can tell me, because I can't find another example. I mean, the only one really which was restored was the Penn State situation. those wins were vacated, but then later restored. That was them getting involved in a criminal matter. I mean, that was, to me, that's an outlier situation. And even then, there was a postseason ban and wins vacated. They were just later restored. It's a mess. I welcome anybody to educate me on the topic, but if you got one of those stupid yellow M's in your profile, I'm going to approach you with a little bit of caution and take everything you say with a grain of salt. Because you have to predict the sunrise tomorrow. You got to see one go to the hoop. You've been wrong about everything. We'll see you next time. Bye.